When you think of Pennsylvania, you picture crumbling steel mills and Rocky Balboa running up museum steps. But that image is a fossil. The real Pennsylvania is a quietly controlled fortress. The steel furnaces went cold decades ago, but the families who built them used those original fortunes to purchase something far more valuable. The media networks broadcasting into your living room, the chocolate your children are eating right now, the financial algorithms that move more money in a single second than most nations generate in an entire year. We are talking about dynasties that bankrolled the American Industrial Revolution, served as Secretary of the Treasury, and now silently control global empires worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Today, we are counting down the 12 richest families in Pennsylvania. From gridiron royalty to the most secretive trader in America, this is how the Keystone State really operates. Number 12. The Rooney family, the gridiron godfathers. How the money was made. In 1933, during the absolute depths of the Great Depression, Arthur J. Rooney Sr. paid just $2,500 to purchase a National Football League franchise in Pittsburgh. Legend holds that he funded the purchase with a single, extraordinary day of winnings at the Saratoga horse races. The franchise, eventually renamed the Pittsburgh Steelers, was a catastrophic failure for decades, accumulating 40 years of losing seasons. But the Rooney family never sold. When Dan Rooney took over operations, he hired coach Chuck Noll, drafted the legendary Steel Curtain defense, and the Steelers erupted into the most dominant dynasty of the 1970s, capturing 4 Super Bowl titles in 6 years. The franchise has won 6 Super Bowls total, the most in NFL history. How it was protected. Professional sports franchises are the ultimate wealth preservation vehicle. The value appreciates regardless of on-field performance because scarcity is absolute. There will never be another NFL team in Pittsburgh. The Rooneys cemented their position by engineering something no leveraged buyout could ever replicate: civic religion. In Pittsburgh, Steelers fandom is a genetic trait, passed down through bloodlines with the same reverence as a family name. That fanatical loyalty guarantees sold-out stadiums, premium broadcast deals, and a franchise value that only moves in one direction: the power move. Dan Rooney authored the NFL's famous Rooney Rule, requiring teams to interview minority candidates for head coaching and senior football operations positions. It was not merely progressive policy, it was a branding masterstroke that permanently embedded the family name into the institutional DNA of the league itself. Dan later served as the United States ambassador to Ireland under President Obama, converting gridiron dominance into genuine geopolitical prestige. What most people misunderstand: the general public views the Rooneys as lovable, blue-collar football owners who drink Iron City beer in the stands. They are, in fact, the longest-tenured ownership family in professional sports history, spanning 3 continuous generations and over 90 years. They paid $2,500 in 1933 for a team now valued at approximately $6.7 billion. With a family net worth estimated at $1.2 billion, they prove that in a state built on steel, patience is an even harder material to forge. Number 11. The Hillman family, the steel alchemists. How the money was made. The Hillman dynasty was forged in the literal blast furnaces of Pittsburgh's Industrial Revolution. John Hartwell Hillman Jr. built a massive fortune in coal, coke, and steel during the early 20th century, becoming one of the key suppliers fueling America's industrial engine. But it was his son, Henry Lee Hillman, who transformed gritty steel money into a sophisticated, diversified empire. Henry took the family's industrial cash flows and deployed them across chemicals, real estate, and venture capital, creating one of the most quietly powerful family offices in the entire country. How it was protected. Henry Hillman was among the first old money industrialists to recognize that the steel industry was a dying animal. Rather than clinging to the furnaces, he aggressively pivoted into venture capital during the 1980s and 1990s, making early-stage investments in companies and sectors that his Pittsburgh peers did not understand. He backed technology startups, biotech ventures, and global real estate plays, ensuring that the family fortune was never again dependent on a single industry. The power move. The ultimate Hillman power move was bankrolling the physical transformation of Pittsburgh itself. The family poured hundreds of millions of dollars into real estate development, directly funding the city's pivot from a declining steel town into a modern hub for technology, healthcare, and education. They did not just invest in Pittsburgh's future. They physically constructed it, ensuring their name is woven into every major civic development in the region. What most people misunderstand, when outsiders hear Pittsburgh family fortune, they assume the money is locked in rusting factories and depleted coal seams. The Hillman family proved that the smartest steel money was the money that got out of steel first. With a family fortune estimated at $2.5 billion, they executed the ultimate industrial alchemy, transforming 19th century soot into 21st century venture capital. Number 10. The Stack family. The sporting goods conquerors. How the money was made. In 1948, an 18-year-old named Richard Dick Stack took $300 from his grandmother's cookie jar and opened a small bait and tackle shop in Binghamton, New York. His son, Edward Stack, took that tiny fishing store and engineered one of the most aggressive retail expansions in American history. Ed moved the headquarters to Coraopolis, Pennsylvania, and systematically built Dick's Sporting Goods into a nationwide behemoth with over 860 locations and approximately $13 billion in annual revenue. How it was protected. Ed Stack protected his empire by ruthlessly occupying a strategic gap in the market. He positioned Dick's Sporting Goods directly between the high-end specialty retailers and the cheap discount outlets. When Sports Authority collapsed in 2016, Stack aggressively absorbed its market share, snapping up prime retail locations at fire sale prices. His timing was surgical. He expanded precisely when his largest competitor was being buried. The power move. In 2018, following the Parkland school shooting, Ed Stack made one of the most consequential decisions in American retail history. He pulled all assault-style rifles from Dick's shelves and raised the minimum purchase age to 21. He destroyed $5 million worth of inventory. Wall Street analysts predicted disaster. Instead, brand loyalty among suburban families skyrocketed, and the stock eventually reached all-time highs. He traded short-term inventory for permanent cultural credibility. What most people misunderstand, the public sees Dick's Sporting Goods as a place to buy running shoes and footballs. They do not see the financial machine behind the counter. Dick's is a Wall Street powerhouse with a market capitalization exceeding $18 billion. With a personal net worth of approximately $2.7 billion, Ed Stack proved that a $300 cookie jar investment and the courage to take a public stand can build a multi-billion-dollar Pennsylvania empire. Number 9. The Toll family. The luxury home builders. How the money was made. In 1967, brothers Robert and Bruce Toll looked at the American housing market and identified an enormous gap. There was no national brand building luxury homes at scale. Every luxury home was a one-off custom project. The Tolls decided to industrialize prestige. They founded Toll Brothers in Horsham, Pennsylvania, and began constructing upscale communities with granite countertops, two-story foyers, and three-car garages as standard features. They turned the American McMansion from a local oddity into a nationwide phenomenon. How it was protected. The genius of Toll Brothers is that they do not just build homes, they control entire communities. They purchase massive tracts of raw land years in advance, secure the zoning and permits, install the infrastructure, and then sell the finished homes at massive premiums. By owning the land pipeline, they control their own supply. When housing downturns hit, they simply slow construction and wait. The land does not expire. The power move. After the devastating 2008 housing crash destroyed most of their competitors, the Toll family went on a predatory buying spree. While other builders were filing for bankruptcy and liquidating assets, the Tolls acquired prime land parcels across the country at pennies on the dollar. When the luxury market recovered, they were sitting on a mountain of discounted real estate. They made more money from the crash than they lost during it. What most people misunderstand, the average person assumes that home builders are simple construction companies subject to the whims of interest rates. The Toll family operates more like a land bank than a builder. With a combined family fortune estimated at $3 billion, Robert and Bruce Toll proved that in real estate, the builder who owns the dirt before the boom starts will always control the profit when the buyers arrive. Number 8. The Wood family, the convenience kings. How the money was made. The Wood family's empire started not with snacks and gasoline, but with iron. In 1803, George Wood established an iron foundry in Chester County, Pennsylvania. His descendants pivoted into dairy farming, launching the Wawa Dairy in 1902 to deliver fresh milk to Philadelphia area homes. When home milk delivery began dying in the 1960s, Graham Wood made a fateful decision. He opened the first Wawa food market in Folsom, Pennsylvania in 1964, transforming a failing dairy route into a convenience store concept that would become the most beloved brand on the entire East Coast. How it was protected. The Wood family protected their empire through two impenetrable strategies. First, they kept Wawa entirely private. There is no ticker symbol, no quarterly earnings call, no activist investors demanding cost cuts. Second, they made Wawa an employee-owned company through a massive employee stock ownership plan. When your cashiers and store managers own equity in the business, they operate with the intensity of business partners, not minimum wage employees. This creates a level of customer service and operational ferocity that no publicly traded competitor can replicate. The power move. While national gas station chains treated food as an afterthought, Wawa turned its stores into full-service restaurants. Their hoagies, custom-built on touchscreen kiosks, became a regional obsession. They did not compete on gas prices, they competed on food quality. They made the gas station a destination, not a necessity. By the time national competitors realized what was happening, Wawa had locked in a cult following across 6 states and Washington, D.C., with over 1,000 locations generating more than $15 billion in annual revenue. What most people misunderstand. Outsiders dismiss Wawa as just a gas station. People from the Philadelphia region will fight you for saying that. The Wood family turned a 200-year-old ironworks into a convenience empire that inspires the kind of brand fanaticism typically reserved for technology companies. They proved that dynastic wealth does not require inventing something new. Sometimes, it just requires selling a perfect hoagie at 2 in the morning. Number 7. The Lurie family, the Eagle Kings. How the money was made. Jeffrey Lurie did not inherit his football team. He bought it with movie money. His family controlled a chain of movie theaters in New England and held ownership interests in Harcourt General, the publishing and entertainment conglomerate. In 1994, Lurie took his entertainment fortune and made a bet that stunned the sports world. He purchased the Philadelphia Eagles for $185 million, the highest price ever paid for a professional sports franchise at that time. Critics called it financial lunacy for a team that had not won a championship in decades. How it was protected. Lurie protected his investment by treating the Eagles like a Hollywood production. He did not just hire coaches, he recruited obsessively, cycling through leadership until he found the right formula. He also understood that a sports franchise is fundamentally a media company. He built the Eagles brand into a content machine, leveraging Philadelphia's fanatical fan base into premium sponsorship deals and broadcast agreements that generate massive revenue regardless of the team's win-loss record. The power move. In February 2018, the Philadelphia Eagles won Super Bowl 52, defeating Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. For a city that had not won a football championship in 57 years, it was a civic earthquake. That single victory transformed the Eagles from a frustrating franchise into a permanent cultural institution. The team's value exploded. Today, the Philadelphia Eagles are valued at approximately $7.5 billion, making Lurie's original $185 million purchase one of the most profitable investments in the history of American sports. What most people misunderstand, the public assumes Jeffrey Lurie is simply a wealthy man who bought a toy. With a personal net worth estimated at $4.9 billion, he is actually a financial operator who executed a 40-fold return on his original investment. He took $185 million and converted it into $7.5 billion in asset value in just 3 decades. In Pennsylvania, the people worship the players, but Lurie owns the temple. Number 6. The Dorrance family, the soup sovereigns. How the money was made. In 1897, a young MIT-educated chemist named John Thompson Dorrance walked into the Campbell Preserve Company in Camden, New Jersey, and offered to work for almost nothing. He had one single obsession: figuring out how to remove water from soup. He invented the condensed soup formula, cutting shipping weight in half and slashing costs dramatically. That single chemical innovation transformed Campbell's from a small regional canner into one of the most iconic food brands in American history. Dorrance eventually purchased the entire company and kept it firmly in family hands. How it was protected. The Dorrance heirs protect their wealth through the most aristocratic strategy imaginable. They simply do not work. The family maintains controlling voting shares in Campbell's through a complex trust structure, but they do not manage daily operations. They hire professional executives to run the company while they collect annual dividends that have flowed uninterrupted for over a century. The fortune is diffused across numerous heirs, with several residing in the exclusive horse country of Chester County, Pennsylvania, where they breed champion thoroughbreds on estates worth tens of millions of dollars. The power move. The Dorrance family has repeatedly blocked hostile takeover attempts to sell or dismantle Campbell's. When activist investor Daniel Loeb and his Third Point Capital launched an aggressive campaign to force a sale in 2018, the Dorrance family trust united and voted as a unified bloc to reject the bid outright. They chose legacy over liquidity. They could have cashed out for billions, but decided that owning an American institution was worth more than the money. What most people misunderstand: the public sees a can of soup on a shelf and thinks of Andy Warhol. They do not think about the family that still owns the company behind that can. With individual heirs worth between $3 billion and $5 billion, and a combined family fortune exceeding $15 billion, the Dorrances prove that the greatest fortunes are not built by creating demand. They are built by making a staple product so cheap and so essential that every household in America purchases it without thinking. They monetized a reflex. Number 5. The Roberts family, the media monarchs. How the money was made. In 1963, Ralph J. Roberts purchased a small, obscure cable television system in Tupelo, Mississippi for $500,000. It was a backwater investment in a technology most people considered a novelty for rural areas. His son, Brian Roberts, who assumed leadership in 1990, possessed a vision that bordered on obsession. He wanted to own every cable wire, every broadcast signal, and eventually every piece of content flowing through them. Over 3 relentless decades, Brian executed a series of acquisitions that swallowed American cable systems, Storer Communications, and dozens of smaller operators, each one adding millions of subscribers and billions in recurring revenue. How it was protected. Brian Roberts engineered one of the most ruthless control structures in corporate America. Through a special class of super voting shares, the Roberts family maintains approximately 1/3 of the total voting power of Comcast, despite owning a much smaller percentage of the economic equity. This means that even though Comcast is a publicly traded company worth over $150 billion, no hostile takeover can succeed, no activist investor can force strategic change, and no board decision can pass without Brian Roberts' personal approval. He runs a public company as if it were a private fiefdom. The power move. In 2011, Brian Roberts orchestrated the $30 billion acquisition of NBC Universal from General Electric. With a single deal, Comcast leapt from being a cable pipe company to owning the content itself. NBC, Universal Pictures, The Today Show, Sunday Night Football, and the Universal Studios theme parks. He followed it by acquiring Sky, Europe's largest broadcaster, for $40 billion in 2018. He did not just want to deliver your entertainment. He wanted to own it, produce it, and broadcast it to the entire planet. What most people misunderstand: Brian Roberts' personal net worth is listed at approximately $2.3 billion, which seems modest on this list. That number is a massive deception. He personally controls a company generating over $120 billion in annual revenue. He owns NBC. He owns Universal Studios. He owns the cable infrastructure reaching tens of millions of American homes. The tallest building in the Philadelphia skyline is the Comcast Technology Center. The Roberts family does not simply live in Pennsylvania. They broadcast Pennsylvania to the entire world. Number 4. The Pugh family. The petroleum philanthropists. How the money was made. In 1886, Joseph Newton Pugh founded the Sun Oil Company, eventually relocating its corporate headquarters to Philadelphia. Sun Oil, later rebranded as Sunoco, grew into one of the most powerful integrated petroleum companies in America. The Pugh family controlled the company for generations, extracting massive fortunes from the refining and distribution of oil products across the entire eastern seaboard. How it was protected. Unlike many oil dynasties that collapsed when the energy industry shifted, the Pugh family executed the most calculated exit strategy in energy history. They progressively divested from the volatile oil business and systematically transferred billions of dollars into a series of charitable trusts. Starting in 1948, the family established 7 separate trusts, each designed to be legally invulnerable to taxation and corporate raiders. In 1985, these trusts were consolidated into the Pugh Charitable Trusts, an entity now holding approximately $8 billion in assets. The power move. The Pugh family did not just donate money. They purchased intellectual authority over the entire nation. They funded the creation of the Pew Research Center, which has become one of the most cited nonpartisan research institutions on the planet. Every time a major news outlet quotes a poll or study from Pew Research, they are citing the institutional legacy of a Pennsylvania oil family. They converted petroleum wealth into the currency of credibility, ensuring the Pew name shapes public discourse long after the last barrel of Sunoco oil is refined. What most people misunderstand, most Americans encounter the Pew name in news articles and academic citations without ever connecting it to oil money. That is precisely the point. The Pew family executed the most elegant transformation in the history of American philanthropy. They took the gritty, controversial wealth of fossil fuel extraction and laundered it into the pristine credibility of nonpartisan research. They stopped drilling for oil and started drilling into the American mind. Number 3. The Hershey Trust, the chocolate orphanage. How the money was made, Milton Snavely. Hershey failed spectacularly, and not just once. He started and bankrupted candy businesses in Philadelphia, Chicago, and New York before finally perfecting a formula for affordable milk chocolate in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania in 1894. But he did not just build a chocolate company, he built an entire town around it. Hershey, Pennsylvania, was designed from scratch. Streetlights shaped like Hershey Kisses, streets named Chocolate Avenue and Cocoa Avenue, and company housing for every worker. He created a corporate utopia powered entirely by cocoa. How it was protected. Milton and Catherine Hershey had no children. In 1909, they established the Milton Hershey School, originally designed for orphaned boys. Then, in 1918, Milton Hershey made the most extraordinary financial decision in American corporate history. He secretly transferred his entire personal ownership of the Hershey Chocolate Company to the Hershey Trust Company, which exists solely to fund the school. Today, the trust controls approximately 80% of the voting power of the Hershey Company. A school for underprivileged children effectively owns one of the largest candy companies on Earth. The power move. In 2002, the Trust's board explored selling the Hershey Company to potential buyers, including Wrigley, for approximately $12.5 billion. The town of Hershey erupted. Residents, workers, and alumni of the Milton Hershey School launched a furious legal and public campaign to block the sale. The Pennsylvania Attorney General intervened and obtained a court injunction. The sale collapsed. Again in 2016, Mondelez International launched a hostile $23 billion takeover bid. The trust rejected it outright. The Hershey Company is, effectively, unsellable. A dead man's will has made it legally impossible for Wall Street to consume one of America's most iconic brands. What most people misunderstand, people assume the Hershey Company is controlled by a wealthy family or a board of corporate executives. It is controlled by an orphanage. The Milton Hershey School endowment now exceeds $17 billion, making it the wealthiest pre-kindergarten through 12th grade school in the entire world. It currently educates over 2,000 students from low-income backgrounds, entirely free of charge, on a campus that sprawls across 10,000 acres. Milton Hershey built the only corporate empire in history whose sole purpose is to raise other people's children. Every Hershey bar sold in America funds a scholarship for a kid who has nothing. Number 2. The Mellon dynasty, the bankers who built Pittsburgh. How the money was made. The Mellon family did not merely participate in the American Industrial Revolution, they financed it. Judge Thomas Mellon founded T. Mellon and Sons Bank in Pittsburgh in 1869. His son, Andrew William Mellon, expanded the institution into one of the most powerful private banks in the nation. But Andrew Mellon was not a passive lender. He identified promising industries and provided the capital to build them from nothing. He was the primary financier behind Alcoa, Gulf Oil, and Koppers. He did not invest in industrial companies. He willed them into existence. How it was protected. Andrew Mellon did what no other industrialist of his era dared. He entered the government. He served as the United States Secretary of the Treasury under 3 consecutive presidents, Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover, for 11 uninterrupted years. During his tenure, he engineered massive tax cuts for the wealthy and presided over the economic policies of the Roaring Twenties. By sitting inside the Treasury Department itself, Mellon ensured that the very tax code of the United States was structured to protect fortunes exactly like his own. He did not lobby the government. He was the government. The power move. After facing political backlash during the Great Depression, Andrew Mellon executed the most spectacular cultural pivot in the history of American wealth. He donated his personal art collection, valued at the time at over $25 million, roughly $500 million in today's dollars, to the United States government and personally funded the construction of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. He converted political controversy into cultural immortality. His grandson, Paul Mellon, continued the tradition, becoming one of the greatest art collectors and philanthropists in American history, endowing both the National Gallery and the Yale Center for British Art. What most people misunderstand. The general public has no idea how deeply the Mellon family is embedded in the infrastructure of American life. The bank they founded evolved into the Bank of New York Mellon, currently holding over $46 trillion in assets under custody. Carnegie Mellon University bears their name. The National Gallery of Art exists because of their collection. Today, Timothy Mellon, a family heir, commands a personal fortune estimated at $14.1 billion, making him one of the wealthiest individuals in the country. The Mellons did not just build Pittsburgh, they financed the blueprint of modern America. They are not a family, they are an institution. Number 1. Jeff Yass, the invisible hand. How the money was made. The richest person in Pennsylvania, and one of the wealthiest human beings alive, is a man most Americans have never heard of. Jeffrey Stephen Yass co-founded Susquehanna International Group in 1987 from a nondescript office in Bala Cynwyd, a quiet suburb just outside Philadelphia. While Wall Street banks relied on intuition and personal relationships, Yass built a firm rooted entirely in mathematical probability theory and competitive poker strategy. Susquehanna became one of the largest quantitative trading and market-making firms on the planet, reportedly handling approximately 1/4 of all listed equity options volume in the United States on any given day. How it was protected. Yass operates in the single most opaque corner of the financial universe. Susquehanna is not a hedge fund that manages outside money. It trades exclusively with its own internal capital. There are no limited partners demanding transparency, no SEC-mandated disclosure of client assets, and no public filings revealing their positions. The firm functions like a sealed black box. Capital enters, proprietary algorithms execute millions of trades per day, and profits exit. Because Susquehanna is structured as a partnership, not a publicly traded corporation, Yass has zero obligation to reveal his holdings, his strategies, or his true net worth to anyone. The power move. While the rest of the world debated whether TikTok was a passing social media fad, Yass was quietly accumulating an enormous stake in its future. Susquehanna International Group holds an approximately 15% ownership stake in ByteDance, the Chinese parent company of TikTok. This single investment, made years before TikTok became a global cultural phenomenon, is now estimated to be worth upwards of $30 billion. When politicians in Washington moved to ban TikTok on national security grounds, they were directly threatening the single largest asset of the richest man in Pennsylvania, a man who also happens to be one of the most prolific political donors in the entire United States. What most people misunderstand, Forbes estimates Jeff Yass's personal net worth somewhere between $28 billion and $40 billion, placing him firmly among the 10 wealthiest individuals in the entire country. Yet he has no consumer brand. He has no product you can purchase. He has no social media presence. He does not appear on magazine covers. He built his fortune by exploiting the mathematical edge embedded in every financial transaction that crosses the American markets. For a century, Pennsylvania's wealth was measured in tons of steel and barrels of oil. Jeff Yass proved that the most valuable commodity in the modern world is not a physical material at all. It is information, processed at the speed of light, from a quiet office outside Philadelphia. He is the invisible hand that Adam Smith theorized about, made real, made rich, and made in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is not just the birthplace of American independence. It is the private vault of American power. From the steel furnaces that forged a nation to the algorithmic trading floors that now dominate global finance, these dynasties own the invisible infrastructure of your daily life. Which of these empires holds the most absolute power? The family that controls your chocolate, the trust that funds an orphanage, or the invisible trader who moves more money in a single day than most countries generate in a year? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into hidden wealth, make sure to like and subscribe to Global Status. We track the money that shapes your world.